Hi, everybody. Welcome. I'm super excited about the message that really wants to come through in this video. It's a message that has been wanting to be shared for weeks. And so I'm finally here. What better time than a time after, I just got a haircut and hairstyled. So I feel pretty confident in how I look. Um, the topic of discussion for this video is crystals. Something I'm so passionate about. And I actually have some crystals accompanying me today. Lovely little amethyst baby. She's gorgeous, right? She belongs to the school. I'm actually down at 22 teachings right now, spending time with the spirits here, and got my pyrite baby. Yeah. And let's just talk a little bit about like how I started with crystals. Like me and crystals, okay, don't get me wrong. When I was young, I used to love to forage rocks that I would find. It was like nature was a huge thing for me. I loved it, but never really nourished that very much. I just knew I had like some kind of affinity with rocks and quartz and how things kind of shined and glistened in the sun. But really, what drew me to crystals was actually a really scary experience that I had out in the Santa Monica Mountains. And it was a form of psychic attack, and I needed help. I needed to find out what I could do to help protect myself. And I actually got a message from my mom, who's passed, in a dream and told me about amethyst. She actually taught me about a few different crystals before I even knew anything about them. And from there, it drew me to go to a crystal store here in LA that had been there for quite some time. And that was the beginning of my relationship with crystals. And I do want to talk a little bit more about my experience with certain crystals. But before I go into that, I think it's important to teach this first lesson. It was the first lesson that I learned from a teacher, and I think is so essential to getting the best, or participating in the best relationship with crystals, us and crystals. And it was given to me by a teacher at this crystal store in Los Angeles, and it was through a book. And the title of the book was Crystal Co-Creators. And that's what I want to talk about today. I think it's, before you go into working with crystals, in my opinion, it's important to learn that you and crystals, you working with crystals, is a co-creative process. And I think it's important to first understand what is co-creation. And I want to go over that a little bit because that could be interpreted in different ways, and I feel like it's used loosely in the spiritual community. Often, and I say loosely because it's used often because we're always in a co-creative process. And as I say that, I encourage you to kind of reflect on, like, what does that really mean? And I want to kind of shoot some examples of what that looks like, and then how you can apply that to your relationship with crystals. And that, I think, will be so influential of how far you can go when you respect the mineral kingdom and their power. And it's that rule, is understanding and respecting that the power and gifts that crystals can give us truly unfolds when we submit and participate in the co-creative process. So let's talk about that. Every moment is a co-creative moment. Let's talk about, okay, let's just say we have a birthday party that we want to, maybe it's a surprise birthday party that you want to throw for your significant other or a family member. And the co-creative process is between you and all the participants, including the moment. All the participants is not just individuals, it's not just people, it's the ornaments and the decorations that you're going to be using, the food that you're going to be offering, the music that you're going to choose to play, what's on your playlist, the people that you are choosing to invite. Perhaps there's a dress code, right? So now there's also a mental body. There's ideas that are part of that co-creative process. You're not creating that experience by yourself. You're co-creating that with others that have either pre-cooked the food for you that you're going to be sharing, who have perhaps created the balloons or made the balloons available to you, right? So balloon makers. The person who was born on such a date, right? They're participating just by being alive, right? So the co-creative process of that is really understanding that although it may be your idea to do a surprise party, you're co-creating with so many different elements. Colors, ideas, people, again, decorations, food, and those that say yes to participating, those that decide to show up, and then the vibration that people come with when they're in the party, when they're there participating. You are always co-creating, and that's a great example to understand that the end product of your idea of what it is that you're hoping to create is co-creative. That end result, even just that day, it's the co-creative process starts from the moment that the idea arises. It actually might have started way before that, where the person was born. You wouldn't throw a party unless that person had initiated and decided to be born on such date and time, because they also need to be willing to participate in the party, right? So there's one example, and that's really just wanting to share that there are so many different elements that come into a co-creative process, and ultimately the power is in the moment, right? Another example, today is another example for me. I was gonna share like getting ready for a party or something, but today, just getting dressed for the day, right? The clothes I'm wearing were made by someone else, were drawn first by someone else, were bought then after by someone else, were sold then after by someone else. The collaboration of the idea of what I'm wearing. The makeup I chose to wear today. Well, that makeup was made by someone else. The brushes I used to apply them, my hairstylist who cut my hair today. And even then it was a collaborative, co-creative process because he needed to know what it was that I ultimately was trying to achieve with my hair. And he did his best, at his best, to execute it. But what I also needed to do was respect his capability to execute and not interfere. Trust him to execute the job. There's a reason why I chose to go and see him, was because He's licensed, so of course his teachers are part of the co-creative process because he learned from others, and he also has his innate ability. So guess what? His parents are also participating in that. And if we're going to get really magical, his highest self and all his past lifetimes are part of the co-creative process. But in order for me to get the best result of my hair or whatever it is that I am embodying in this moment, is to allow all the other participants of the co-creative process to be able to be wholeheartedly themselves. And I respect that they're wholeheartedly themselves, without judgment, with full trust, without trying to manipulate or change them in any way, but simply saying, I know you have the capability of doing your best, and all I can do that is my best is, number one, submit to the process of getting the hair done, right? Sitting in the chair, sharing all of my ideas of what it is that I would want, and being honest about it. So I need to be also in my full power of sharing and feeling confident in sharing that, because I'm not going to get the most out of this hair appointment unless I am truly honest about what I want. And how much am I willing to participate in that? What's my role, without overtaking or expecting the hairstylist to read my mind and try to achieve something, right? So I'm going to be disappointed if I don't come in with an open heart, which includes me sharing what I expect and I'm hoping to get, and also an open heart to allow him to be his full, awesome self. And then we're constantly communicating back to one another as the hair process is happening. And okay, so how does that feel? Your hair feels a certain way. It needs some of this. Let's wash it again. Let's try to diffuse it. Okay, let's try to do this. Okay, I like that. Why don't you go ahead and do you know what I'm saying? So there's a communication happening with a co-creative process. So if I didn't say what I wanted, I'm not going to get very close to what I'm ultimately trying to achieve. So I also need to be clear and honest with myself of what I'm looking for. What do I want? Unapologetically, what is it that I desire? Not do I deserve it and is it possible? Just what do I want? Be honest about it, and then he can do his part. And I can ramble on, but there's a point here to say, is that co-creation is in every moment. In every moment. That party that you're throwing, right? Not, that we're throwing that many, but if you're throwing a party, you also need the moment. The moment is going to be coming up constantly, right? Moments for an opportunity to make the most, to make the best joke, or to give the most love, or whatever else. But co-creation there's an opportunity to co-create all the time. Now, the question is, are we making the most out of that co-creative process? So I want to move into, how does this apply to crystals? And I think there's just this big misconception out there of that crystals are going to do all the work for you, like whatever you want. I desire money. I want abundance of money. Okay, so go ahead and get your pyrite, put it on an altar, and bam, you're done. You know what? Get the pyrite, put it in your pocket, and wear it all the time. Done. Boom. I think there's a misconception of that's what's going to have you make the most of, that's going to make you achieve what it is that you want most out of the crystals. It's almost like we want the crystals to do all the work and we don't need to do anything. But I'm here to say that the first important lesson that I learned, and I would hope that all of us apply and understand is that you and crystals have a co-creative process, and you're only going to get the most out of that co-creative process is if you participate. I mean, but like full-hearted participation doesn't mean that, oh, well, I purchased the stone. Well, I carry it with me all the time. Oh, well, I put it on my altar. But there's so many things that come with the co-creative process. I want you to get the most out of your crystals. And I want your crystals to get the most out of you as well. Because they're going to be themselves, I mean, regardless. But I think it's important to respect the mineral kingdom, to not, and part of respecting it is not just putting all of your problems on top of a crystal and hoping that it's going to just fix everything for you. I think that applies to a lot of things in our lives. But for right now, we're talking about crystals, and it's a co-creative process. So how do we start? One, what's amazing about crystals is that if you work with them enough, you become more and more sensitive to their frequency, which I can talk about in a whole other video. And the vibration of being around them, if you open yourself up to the possibility, is they're really good at bringing things up to the surface, up to your consciousness, up to your awareness, and make them an opportunity to work towards what you ultimately want to achieve. So, one, we need to respect crystals, and part of that is knowing that they're going to be themselves. They're not going to change to become anything else other than what they are. And our part is to respect that. The other part is, are we caring for them and treating them in a way where we can have them be their best selves, which means, are we cleansing them? Are we shifting them around in our homes? Are we raising their vibration once they've been around low vibration for a long time? And there's so many different ways that you can do that, right? And again, I'll go over that in a later video. But that's part of that. And also understanding that they're not going to do all the work for you. So then after that, it's understanding, okay, what is it that I do want to achieve and how much of that is my responsibility? Because what they will do is bring things up to the surface for you, whether that be visually, it could be in your mind, it could be just physically, you're starting to feel some of a difference. And when those opportunities arise, your job would be, okay, awareness is one great way to start, just being aware, and then moving towards, okay, the next time that I see this, or that I become more, or I see what I'm aware of, that I act upon doing something with that information. And that could be as simple as, writing about it, write it down in a journal. And now you're part of this balanced co-creative process. And their activity, what they're bringing into your home and into your life, is not happening in vain. And I would want us all to be part of that co-creative process, because then we won't be needing to seek out this crystal and that crystal and then doing, you know what I mean? Which is all good. It's all great. No problem. I love crystals too. I have tons of them. So this is really talking to myself too. I'm not perfect, but I have stones that are meant for healing and healing my clients. I have stones that are meant to be on my altar. I have stones that I'm experimenting with so that I can relay the information out to you guys. But in that way, crystals really want to be used and seen and put out there. So that could be your other part of being co-creative is, okay, let me put you out in the sun. Let me put you out where people can see you. because even the visual participation of that co-creative process is you participating. Okay, what can I do? And your responsibility is you can simply be the one to move them. They don't move themselves, although some people may disagree. They may say they pop out of pockets. I've lost crystals myself, misplaced them, found them again. People have found them and I told them, okay, well, that's for you then, it's not for me anymore, you know? So ultimately what I'm saying here is that I want us to move towards just acknowledging that crystals are not going to do all of the work for you. They're not. And I feel like we really need to move towards respecting the earth and the planet. And one of the ways to start is by looking at our crystals and honoring them wholeheartedly for what they are, and letting them know in our actions and our behaviors that I'm here to do the work with you, that I hear exactly and feel exactly what you're doing and shifting in my world, and I'm moving towards a higher place by moving into awareness, writing down what I'm aware of, and potentially moving towards the things the opportunities I have to get and achieve what it is that I wanted in the first place, right before I got you. All right, I think I've relayed the message. Lesson number 1 for crystals is respecting the co-creative process between you and them. All right, guys. Well, I hope you've enjoyed the video. And if not, all good. I love you anyway. And I hope to see you soon on my next video talking more about crystals. And I love you guys so much. And I will see you soon.